Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale retro figure unboxing and review video. Now today we are taking a trip back in time to check out Spidey from Spider-Man 3. Now correct me if I'm wrong down below, but I'm pretty sure this was the first ever Spider-Man figure that Hot Toys made. Nowadays they are synonymous with Spider-Man, they've made a bunch and I've reviewed them all. This, up until right now, is the only one I never reviewed. And finally, I can complete my Spidey suite of videos. Now, if you are looking to grab this, I'm pretty sure he is available from toysofwonderland.com, but I have warned you, he is going to be pricey. He is old and long since sold out. Now, what we are going to do next, though, is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here, of course, we have the box art. And just like the black suit Spidey, this box is massive. It's oversized for, I'm not exactly sure what purpose, but either way, I love the way it looks. It's very clearly the front of Spidey's suit. We've got a 3D raised effect to the Spider logo, although mine is starting to peel off and show some signs of age with the glue getting real nasty. But other than that, it looks awesome. There is this glossy effect to the pattern of the suit itself. You do have an image of Spidey on the side and a massive one on the back, as well as the cast and crew responsible for making this release. Now, back in the day, this was the Spidey to have. Hot Toys went all out on the box art, including a read-up, which they very seldom do nowadays. We also have another image of Spidey on this inside cover, and then the figure himself. Now, I've had this guy in the collection for quite some time, but for some reason, I never thought to review him. A bunch of y'all have requested it, so here he finally is. Now, I would say first impressions, but as I said, I have owned this guy for quite some time, so we'll get to that in just a second. Now, we do have one tray, so what we are going to do now is get all of Spidey's accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all the parts and pieces. Now, starting off with the display base first, you actually get two options here, but we'll talk about this one. It's the classic Hot Toys oval style display base with Spider-Man 3 up on top, Spider-Man on the front, then a regular crotch grabber. But arguably the more exciting of the two is this bad boy right here. It's a multi-piece diorama display base that you simply snap together. It's painted, sculpted, and detailed very nicely. It looks like a hunk of a building that's been torn away. One side is all rough and stone-like, and the other one has a little bit more detail, plus a perch for Spidey up on top. But it seems like back in the day, Hot Toys realized that, hey, not everyone has room for something as big and, yes, as awesome as this, so they gave you a much smaller, simpler solution. I kind of wish Hot Toys nowadays would get back to doing that. Now, you do get a full array of Spidey hands. They all do have the surface printing with the suit detail, as well as the web lines, which are fully sculpted and painted. You also get two of each of these different styles of webs. This one is to be shot, as you'd expect. This one is kind of like he's attached onto something. You actually only get one of these, but you do get two of these long ones. These ones are supposed to be used for web swinging in conjunction with this little piece right here. Bringing in one of the hands, there's a teeny tiny little hole in the bottom that you're supposed to peg this into. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but once you have it in there, then you can bring in the longer web, thread it through the top, and it kind of looks like he's grabbed onto it. Obviously, nowadays, Hot Toys have a far better solution to that, and it's my favorite, the spooled up web. You also get some of these little rings. They're made of metal, but basically what these are for is to slide over the wrist peg, then peg the webs into them. It's kind of a weird little solution, but because Tobey's webs were naturally formed out of his body, they had to make a hidden solution, so I guess, yeah, this totally works. What we are going to do now, though, is get Spidey himself out here and take a closer look. Here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And for the most part, yeah, it does what it says on the tin. It's a Sam Raimi trilogy Spidey figure. But yeah, there are a couple of things which are starting to let the figure down ever so slightly. Number one, the ankles. I had to go with the display base because mine are so loose that he simply wouldn't cooperate and stand on the rotating turntable. So do watch out for that if you're picking up one of these Spidey figures. The suit itself, though, is awesome. I like the color tones, I like the texture of the fabric, and I love the web lines. The spider logos front and back also do pop out. They're not just printed on the surface, they're actually 3D raised elements. Now, the body is the biggest issue, I think, with this Spidey. It looks a little bit too boxy, the thighs are massive, and yes, I totally understand that the Screen Used suit had a muscle suit underneath, so he did have these big broad shoulders and the ab definition, but not quite as exaggerated as this guy is. What we are going to do now, though, is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. Here we have him up close and personal. Now, for a figure released way back in the day, and for the fact that this is Hot Toys' first Spidey attempt, I think they did a pretty commendable job. Is he flawless? No. Is he flawless by today's standards? Absolutely not. He does have a few things which have me sitting here scratching my head, but then I remind myself, hey Justin, this was their first Spidey, cut them some slack. Now let's start off with the head sculpt. I do have one big complaint. That's that the mask is one fabric piece that connects to the base of the neck, which, yes, it does have a cleaner look, I suppose, than having a cut underneath the chin, but then again, when you have him looking up, it kind of makes it look like he has no chin, and his neck kind of just melds into it. It's a bit of a weird design choice. When you have it tilted down, you can see the definition does return, but it's something that has bothered me since this guy was announced. Now let's talk about the lenses. Apparently the shape isn't quite right, and the color isn't supposed to be black around the outside. It's supposed to be gunmetal. Those two things don't bother me. I like the way they look. There's a depth to them, there's some mesh, and then a clear section over the top, and I think they scream Sam Raimi's Spidey, so the lenses for me get a tick. The material that they've used on the suit, including the head sculpt, is awesome. It's all full fabric with the web lines attached over the top, and the same thing can be said for the spider logos. The blue sections are also full fabric. I'm hoping that one day Hot Toys goes back to doing something like this. That means you can go crazy with the posing, and aside from the web lines, you don't really have a lot to worry about. Now there is one other complaint I have, and you may have already noticed it, but they used a generic stock body. That means that, yes, some anatomy unfortunately does poke through the suit, as you can see, which looks a little bit weird on your Spidey. I think they should have at the very least smoothed that out, so it looks like the muscle suit Tobey was wearing in the film. I also don't love that the hands are very clearly a different color to the suit itself, and that when it rides up, it reveals this black underlayer. They couldn't really do anything about it, I would suppose. Nowadays we have web shooters that kind of clamp it in place, but back in the day they were still experimenting and trying to get it right. Now mine is unfortunately having a little bit of discoloration. As you can see when the light hits it, it looks a little bit yellow in places. So that is definitely something to watch out for. Now, coming down to the boots themselves, these kind of look like something we'd see from Hot Toys nowadays. What do I mean in saying that? Well, the bunching issue, of course. Even the tech suit Spidey from Homecoming had the very same issue. For some reason, Hot Toys haven't been able to crack the code up until very recently on how to eliminate this. So yes, it's very prominent. Also, the entire boot is a rubbery style piece with a ball joint underneath. As the years go by and the ball joint starts to lose that friction, it does become very loose. So yes, my Spidey has pretty much no articulation at the ankles, it is completely free floating. But other than those few minor complaints, we do have to remember this is a retro release, so it does have its charm. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have all three eras of Spidey standing together. And yeah, I'm really happy with how this looks. Is this guy in the center perfect? No, obviously not. He doesn't even come with a Tobey Maguire head sculpt, nor is he compatible with the one that comes with the black suit. But yeah, this still works. If you don't have the third-party Thunder Toys Spidey, this guy can be your de facto Sam Raimi Spidey in the collection. Plus, even if they do release a new one, you can still be pretty happy because you have the first ever Hot Toys Spidey. You've got a piece of the Hot Toys history. And that's why I decided to get him back in the day. Even if we get a new and improved version, owning the first Spidey that they ever made is still pretty awesome. Just going over articulation. Now bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. Now starting off with the head sculpt, there's a ball joint at the base of the head and another at the base of the neck. Combined, looking forward to there, going back the full way, swivel, then a ton of pivot side to side. The arms will go up to there. They will of course go forward and back on soft ratchets. Butterfly joint at the shoulder that also drops up and down. Swivel at the bicep. A double bend at the elbow that goes past 90, plus a regular 1/6 scale wrist peg. The torso has two joints, one at the upper and then one at the lower. Combined, crunching to there, going back to there, swivel and then pivot side to side, although you don't get a ton. The legs will go forward to there, they will go out to there, swivel at the upper thigh, a double bend at the knee, and lastly a ball joint down here for the ankle. Just wrapping up on Spider-Man based off his appearance in Spider-Man 3. Now I've had this guy in the collection for quite some time, so he is starting to show some signs of age, from the baggy neck issue to the super loose ankles to the slight discoloration of the suit in certain areas. But does that make this guy any less worthwhile? I think no. I think he's still worth adding to the collection for sheer nostalgia value alone. This was Hot Toys' first Spider-Man figure. Nothing can take that away from this guy, so if you have him, and Hot Toys decides to do a 2.0, this still has that certain retro charm. So yeah, I am super glad I picked him up and he's not going anywhere. Even though the Thunder Toys figure I think is far superior, this guy still is an awesome presence. Plus, I love that gorgeous diorama display base and the fact that he comes with a normal display base as well. That's something that even Hot Toys today doesn't do. Now, let me know what you think of this Spidey down in the comments below. Does he hold up for you? Is he just absolutely terrible from today's standards? I'm curious. If you are looking to pick him up, I'm pretty sure he will still be available from toyswonderland.com, but do bear in mind he's long since sold out, and I'm pretty sure all Spidey figures are spiking on the Hong Kong markets. So yeah, I have warned you. When you are heading down to the description, check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.